So today I thought I'd tell the story about the time I spent the most time down the block in Dartmoor prison, and it was for getting nicked for making replica firearms in the carpentry shop in prison. Alright, so this sounds like a really serious charge, and I was really freaking out when the security staff came and opened my door one afternoon and said that they'd searched the carpentry shop and they'd found the guns that me and my friend had been making. Now, obviously, I fucking shit myself. You know, this was serious. I didn't have that long left to go, and well, you know, this could have ended up with me being recategorized. This could have ended up with me being moved off to another prison. You know, you basically get moved down to the block, and then you'll get put into an escape man suit. You know, with the big checks on there, and you know, you get taken from prison to prison, never really knowing where you are until they dump you on. You know, onto Parkhurst Island somewhere, or, you know, they fucking move you up to Wakefield, something like that. Hide you away until they work out what to do with you. And being accused of making replica firearms in prison, I mean, fucking hell, that's about as serious as it gets. So, yeah, as they took me down to the block, you know, I didn't kick off or anything like that. You know, in the whole time I was in prison, I never had a fight with the staff. It didn't seem smart to me to be kicking off and fighting with the people that you know, held my life in their hands. And a lot of the time I was on parole sentences as well. So yeah, if I was to chin a member of staff, that would be a nail in the coffin for any chance of ever getting parole. Not that I really got had much chance of getting parole anyway. But yeah, I knew fighting the staff would be stupid doing that. I had plenty of fights with inmates. Don't get me wrong. But yeah, that was all done in the showers and behind closed doors. Very rarely got nicked for any violence in prison. So to be suddenly finding myself being taken down the block for manufacturing replica firearms was something that was gonna be a bit of a shock to the system. Now, my friend also, who made the other gun, he'd been taken down the block also, and they took a third friend of ours down there. He was down there just because he was associated with us. He hadn't actually made a gun himself, but he was associated with us, so he ended up being taken down the block also. Now, I can't remember. I think it was towards the beginning of the week. It might have been sort of a Monday or Tuesday this was happening. So, yep, like I say, you get taken down to the block. In Dartmoor, it's kind of one of the basement landings. So by that I mean it's lower than ground level. It's kind of dug into the ground. The windows are all high up, maybe about 10 foot up. They're on ground level outside, but you know, down in the basement they're all sort of 10 foot high. When you go into the cell, first thing you notice is it looks a lot like the you know, the police cell when you first get taken into prison. The cardboard chair and cardboard table, and there's a bed that isn't a bed frame or anything. It's just a big, you know, rectangle block that's sort of built into the wall, and yeah, that's you. They just shut the door and they leave you there. After a little while, maybe an hour or two, the security staff came and took me for an interview, and they said that they'd done a sweep of the carpentry shop, which is quite normal. They'd gone in there over a lunch break, and on the wall they'd found the two guns that me and my friend had made. Now, these were kind of we didn't have much work on at the time, so we were kind of just sat around doing nothing, and we noticed that a couple in the offcuts bin, there was a couple of offcuts that were slightly sort of dog-legged, so they looked a bit like a sawn-off shotgun sort of thing. So we kind of cut them down and sanded them off a little bit and made them a bit more shotgun-shaped. And then my friend kind of just went off on his own, and he kind of squirreled away for like a day or so. Like I say, we didn't have much work, so we were kind of, you know, half pissing around and half working. And you know, the guy who ran the workshop knew there wasn't much work on, and he knew we were kind of just keeping ourselves to ourselves, so he didn't really intervene much. And yeah, so after a day of my pal working on this shotgun, he came back, and it actually looked quite good. He'd sanded it down. He'd carved some of the handles, so it was kind of had some shapes and sort of patterns in it, and it looked pretty good. So I took the one that I was fucking around with, and I sanded it down and kind of put some grooves in it, and you know, we had two of these little they didn't look like much like shotguns anymore. They looked like those kind of handheld muskets that pirates used to have back in the day. And bearing in mind, it's just a block of wood. We haven't drilled out the barrels or anything like this. But they are rounded off, and it does look quite ornate and things like this. And I think we used a pencil to make the barrel slightly distinct from the handle. That was the only thing we did to kind of give it any kind of realism. And then we put a couple of nails up on the wall, and we hung them up on the wall. Like you would above a fireplace sort of thing. And we thought nothing of it. And even the guy who ran the carpentry shop came over and saw them up on the wall, and he thought they were pretty good. And because he was a civilian, he's still a member of staff, but he's a civilian at the end of the day. And he just didn't see it as the security risk that it was. And so yeah, me and my pal and this other innocent lad were down the block, and they took me for an interview. And it was these two kind of security apes, both looked like they should have been doormen, or that kind of big fat kind of doorman, bald-headed type, both kind of in their 40s, hairy backs to their arms and foreheads, that sort of thing. And and they kind of sat there. One was stood up, and one was sitting down, kind of writing down the questions and the answers. And they kind of, drilled me with, did you make those guns? And I just told them to fuck off. And they said, were you trying to escape? And I just told them to fuck off. And, they just kind of, every question they asked me, I just told them to fuck off. And it kind of asked me again, did you make those guns? And I just said, fuck you, mug. And just kept going round and round. And in the end, he kind of, got bored of this. And he just said, look, I'm going to ask you one more time. It was, did you or your friend make those guns? And I kind of just looked at him completely differently, and I looked at the piece of paper and I said, hold on, I'm sure you've asked me this question before. And I kind of swiddled the bit of paper around, and he asked me the question and written down the answer. So I kind of pointed it out, and I was like, oh yes, here it is. Fuck you, mug. And just left it at that. And they were fuming. They kind of, just dragged me off back down to my cell again. And I ended up sitting down there for a bit. When you're down the block, the governor comes to kind of see you each evening or afternoon and kind of authorises your stay for another 24 hours or another however long while they were doing this investigation. So I'd see the governor on a daily basis. But after that kind of interview, I didn't really see anybody again for a little bit. But we did find out that they were trying to get outside charges brought against us for manufacturing firearms in prison. Now, down the block mostly, you've got a real mixed bag. There's about 10 or 15 cells down there. There were some other lads down there who were shouting across to each other. They've been caught doing something or other. And, you've got occasional just single other people down there who are down there for whatever reason. You can even end up down the block for, your own protection sometimes. So there are some just sort of innocent people down there who are just hiding, But in the most case, it's down there people who have either been fighting, they've been kicking off, they're on protest or, one thing or another. But me and my pal, the third guy had been let go because when my friend who'd made the second gun talked to the staff, he just told them everything. He said, look, we're just fucking around. We're just bored and carving them out of wood. We weren't doing anything. He even said, look, between us, we've only got about 6 months left to go. We're hardly going to start running at the gate like Billy the Kid. So, the third guy got let go because it was obvious he didn't do anything. But they just needed me to admit what I was doing, and then they would have just let us out. But me being a fucking knucklehead like I was at the time, I was just sat there happy to just sit down the block. I was quite happy. In a way that I was being tarred with that brush of, making replica firearms. It didn't do my reputation any harm. So I was quite happy to just sit and rot down the block and stick two fingers up to the staff, basically. Let whatever punishment was going to come my way come. Was the way I looked at it. But I was young and dumb, young knucklehead. Basically, the way I look at myself back then is just like one of those young bucks who just was constantly into just fighting and chasing women. That's all I was interested in. And yeah, I made some stupid decisions based around my own arrogance and my own ego. But yeah, so one afternoon when the staff have all gone off for dinner, sort of after 4 or 5 o'clock, my friend shouted across to me. This was about after 2 or 3 days down the block. We'd spoken a little bit, but he'd spoke to the governor that day, and the governor had informed him that we were going to be stuck down the block until basically I admitted what we'd been doing. And while I wasn't admitting what we were doing, he was going to leave us both down there to fucking rot. So my mate shouts over to me, and he was saying, "Look, I've got a fucking visit at the weekend. If you don't talk to the staff about what we were doing and how it was just fucking around, it wasn't anything bad. It wasn't an escape attempt. Then they'll just let us back up onto the wing." And I went mad at him. I was just like, "Listen, you fucking talk to the staff. You've told them that we were..." Oh, fuck's sake, I couldn't believe, like, in my eyes, he was grassing. In my eyes, this was the worst thing you can do. It's always, rule number one is you just don't talk to the staff. So with him, he didn't live by the same rule book as I did. And obviously he had that influence of wanting to see his missus, wanting to see his kid, that sort of thing. So, yeah, I'd ended up basically, living by this prison set of rules, and I just dug myself into this hole of my own doing. And if I just admit what we were doing was completely innocent, then we would be able to get out of there. So I considered it, because he kept going on. He was going to miss this visit, and I started to feel bad that he was going to miss this visit with his kid and everything. And I didn't want to be the reason he did that. So the next time the governor came round to talk to me about, continuing my detention down the block, I said to him, "Look, I explained the situation, same as what he had. We were just bored, made these guns on the, on the side while we had nothing else to do, and yeah, he let us out." Now even the landing staff were amazed to see us come back. We've been down there for about 4 days at that point. And even the landing staff said to me that he was surprised. He thought we would be in an E-man suit and sent up north. But yeah, we managed to get back onto the wing, and we were quite lucky to do so, really. And the only reason we got caught down the block was because of my own pig-headedness. But as far as I was concerned, that was always my thing. I was never a halfway crook. It was all or nothing with me. So I'd been caught, but I was willing to just keep digging my head into the sand and keep going further down the fucking chain. Whereas that other lad, even though he was in prison, he still came clean and told them exactly what he'd done. Which one of us was smarter? You'll get a lot of people who are living that prison mentality saying, never talk to the staff. And that was the knucklehead that I was. And I probably would have ended up being shipped out. Probably would have ended up being down the block for a long time. Who knows? But yeah, eventually, sense came through, and we got out of there. So yeah, that was the time I was banged up in Dartmoor block for making replica firearms. And like I said, it didn't do my reputation any harm, because one of the nights when I was down there, the gym staff, the prison was short staffed, so the gym staff had to work down the block. And when they opened the door and saw me down there, they were like, "Bloody hell, Bonnie, what are you down here for?" And I said, "Oh, I'm being charged with making replica firearms." And from that day on, they started calling me dangerous. So instead of when on the gym list, because we used to have to put all our name down for the gym, and then we'd go to the gym and stand outside the door, and then he'd call you in on the list with your surnames. And instead of shouting out Bonnie, they'd always shout out dangerous. And as they did so, everybody would look around to kind of see, who the bloody hell are the gym staff calling dangerous? And then they'd see me walking down through. And yeah, that certainly didn't do my my reputation in prison any harm. So yeah, that was the time I was locked up in Dartmoor block for manufacturing replica firearms. Thank you very much for listening. Subscribe, like, share. Do everything else YouTube wants you to do. Cheers. Thank you.